Omar Garcia, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being
Appreciate
here.
it.
Go ahead, continue your story, though.
Which one? Oh, Jesus Christ.
We were digging into a bunch
we had a bunch of stuff going on.
You were talking about 220.
Yeah. So, for example, I mean, that project, you couldn't rebuild what was there, right? Because now you have to have, your solid waste on the ground floor. You have to have a fire pump on the ground floor. This is why everybody, complains about, oh, there's not enough retail. There's not enough retail on the bottom floor. Well, guess what? It all gets consumed by all this, administrative stuff that you have to have, right? You have to have a fire pump. You have to have a fire control room. You have to have your solid waste.
Right.
You have to have all this stuff. And then, imagine we have a footprint that's like, I don't know, like 150 by 60. Where are you going to fit all that on a ground level on Madison?
Pull this up, David, as we're talking about it. 220. Yeah. You got it zoomed in on the map. Yeah. So yeah, let's just dig in. I do want to talk about, you grew up in Tampa.
Born and raised, first generation.
Cuban-American family.
Yes.
Your parents immigrated here from Cuba.
Yep. My dad was actually working here in 1957 as a chemical engineer. The shit hits the fan in late 57, 58. And like by 62, all my family's out.
Wow.
Yeah, completely out. So and then, we had like 15 family members living on a house in South Tampa and on Tacon Street with one bathroom, right? So it was, a
true immigrant story,
man,
right there.
and you know what? It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was absolutely wonderful.
Community, family.
My uncle built, so my uncle wanted his own private space. So he built a room in the attic, put an elevator in one of the closets, and lived up there for 40 years.
Holy shit.
Right? And so the funny thing is when all those people were living there, there's only one bathroom. My uncle was famous for like taking long showers. So as soon as everybody heard that elevator kick on, man, they were running for the bathrums, right? Because if not,
we got to use it.
If not, it's locked down for another 45 minutes, right?
What was your uncle's name?
Francisco Garcia. We call him Huacho.
We got to get the hot water flowing before
absolutely. You got to use that. You got to take a piss before he comes
flush
out.
the toilet.
Exactly.
So you guys bought this deal here.
Yes. Yes.
What did you say the price per square foot was?
$47 a square foot.
You can't even come close to purchasing the dirt and building that.
Right. And that's a steel and concrete building. I mean, it's solid as a rock.
You're a construction guy. You've been in construction for a long time. What does that cost to buy that dirt and to build that building today?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, replacement cost right now is insane. I don't know. You'd probably be looking at 350, 400,
wow.
Per square foot in that area. I mean, look at trying to do work there, right? Where are your construction guys going to park? Where are you going to put, heavy equipment? Where are you going to do it all, right?
That if this was just a dirt lot right here and it was for sale, you probably could argue it's the most premium piece of downtown core real estate. I mean, right across from the Gaslight Park.
Yep. If you look at if you zoom out on downtown Tampa, I mean, it is one of the most central buildings in downtown Tampa, right? I mean, that little block right there is probably the most pedestrian area in downtown Tampa.
Absolutely.
It's all surrounded by, restaurants, and there's like clubs and, all kinds of stuff going on in there.
And it's vintage 1960s.
1962. It was built in 1962. And it's solid as all hell. I mean, it's a solid building. And then we took it down to the walls and the steel.
So how did this deal transpire? I do want to talk about the deals you had before this. We can dig into it, but since we're on 220, because it's kind of a unique deal, right? I mean, you took an office building and rebuilt it into student housing.
Adaptive reuse of an existing historically designated office building to student housing, like we were talking later. You can't make it. I mean, put a nuclear reactor in there would probably make it the only thing that would make it harder to do. Right. So it was crazy. But yeah, we had already bought West River Flats, and we were kind of looking for our next deal, and everybody's like, oh, you can add 15% on this multifamily and that, and I was like, that's not me, right? I want to see something that I just it needs to be like massive value add, right? Just raising rents by 15% and putting an extra piece of vinyl floor tile. That's not doing it for me, right? So I was just, and you had all the brokers around town sending me multifamily deals and, hey, look at this, look at that. And I said, listen, man, I don't care what it is. If you think it's interesting, I don't give a shit. I don't care if it's whatever. Just send it. And one guy's like, yeah, you should go look at this building because it's kind of interesting. And so I like immediately, like within 10 minutes, I was in the car going to take a look at it. And I was like, yeah, so this was a building that had been into foreclosure several times. No designated parking, right? And by the way, Zach Nolan was the guy that told me to go check it out.
There's no garage
Shout
in that
out
building?
to Zach on that one. Huh?
Shout out, Zach.
Yeah.
There's no parking garage
No
in
parking.
that building. Huh.
No parking. So it kept going. So you had an office building with no parking. What do you do with that?
So it had no buyers, not probably flat interest.
Well, you'd get people that buy it, and then they'd find out they couldn't do shit with it, and then it'd be like, okay, and then that would go into foreclosure. And anyway, Bob Basham picked it up in like 2007, and started to remodel it, modernize the elevators, put in new chillers and all that kind of stuff. And then 2008 housing crash happened. Nobody's doing anything. And so that thing sat basically empty with the exception of the ground floor. I don't think he was collecting enough revenue from floors 2 through 12 to pay the electricity bill.
Wow.
Right. I mean, that's how bad it was. Now you got a CVS that's been there like, 30 years.
Do the 3D view, David, so we can see this thing.
Yeah.
Or even pull up pictures if you got them.
Yeah.
It's actually a really cool building.
It's fantastic, man.
Mid-century,
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. So if you go on the other side, on the south side, you can see kind of, or if you like go down Franklin Street, you can actually see it. But either way.
Now that CVS has been there a long time.
It's been there quite the while. Yes, it has.
So you see this thing, no one wants to touch it. People that do touch it, can't necessarily figure out how to make it work. It's failed over and over again. Failed over and over.
Yeah.
But it does have CVS.
It does. It's got a CVS. It's actually one of CVS's highest grossing for non-pharmacy, right?
Wow.
So because who goes in there? You're buying a Coke. You're buying a bag of chips. That's super high margin stuff, right? We added bike racks here. We had so we have the CVS. Then you come across. We have the main entrance to the building. We have a Subway and a PETA.
And was the Subway and the PETA?
They were already there.
They were already there. So you had some retail kind of cash flowing a little bit.
Yeah, and then the second floor, what we did was we now over the CVS. Originally, this was a bank building, and so that corner where CVS was a 2-story, was actually 3-story bank. So if you ever go inside, it's got like this wave that goes across.
Oh.
They've closed it off on the top, but it used to be open from the top to the bottom floor.
Okay. Oh,
wow. And then there was a spiral staircase right here in this little bump out that would go up to the second floor. So now CVS is using the storage above. So and then there's an elevator that we found that was buried in there. Governor Bob Martinez had the elevator certificate on it.
Oh my!
So I still have that.
That's cool.
Bob, Tampa guy. There we go.
Wow.
And so we've actually had interest from a bank to repurpose it back into a bank, a storefront bank, right?
Wow. So where would that entrance be?
Right on the other side it could be there. Originally, it was in the front over here where like photo was. So there's some old photos that had the entrance on that side. But now CVS uses the Franklin Street entrance. And so, right there, that's the main entrance to the CVS. And so they occupy that space. If you look on the third floor up where the little fluorescent lights at, or the LED lights, that's now our amenities floor for our student housing, where we have the old bank vault, which was in the upper right-hand corner there. That now we turned into a movie theater, which is very soundproof because it was a bank vault.
I would imagine so.
And then on the other side, on the second floor, we have a tenant, office tenant. And then third floor is all our amenity space. We have a gym, we have laundry rooms, we have a tanning bed, lots of study rooms for the kids. They love that. It was huge during COVID because somebody could, go in there and take their online classes and stuff. That band that you see around the building, that's where all the facilities is. So the air handlers, we have we have 3 air handlers. And the cool thing with that is, unlike, a lot of other student housing, we have one big air handler that covers all the student housing. So there is no, separate drain lines and filters for each one of the units. We have 50 filters that we have for all those with backup bag filters. So the air is like super clean. We had, those are original American signature fans from the 60s where it was put in. When we bought the building, the original GE electric motor was still turning those fans, right? And we had to change them out because they weren't that good for variable frequency drives that let you ramp up and ramp down the fans. But those fans had been turning, those motors had been turning for 60, 70 years. I mean, that shows you the quality of the stuff that we used to make in this country, right?
They don't make them like they used to.
No. I mean, I got elevators in there that are direct current DC elevators that are silky smooth, built in the 1960s, right? You jump into an elevator today and they're garbage.
Right.
It's like a tin box on a string.
So you kept a lot of that old infrastructure.
Listen, man, the Otis guys said, don't pay it. The tech guys, they might hear from their, like sales guy, but they said, listen, whatever you do, don't let anybody tell you to take these motors out.
Wow.
Ever.
So even the maintenance guys were saying
they are the best things. They don't make them like that anymore, right? The elevator that we have in CVS has 0 solid state. Nothing. No circuit boards, no nothing. The whole thing is a bunch of relays. So when that elevator moves, it's like all these little relays like kicking off and on. And the damn thing runs perfect, right? So it's these elevators used to have also, they had a system where it has a rope system on the bottom. So, like people say, don't jump in the elevators because you mess them up. Nothing. It doesn't move. Does not move in any which way, shape, or form.
Damn.
But it's gotten, it's more expensive to do that now, so they don't do them in new elevator installs. But so it's a fantastic building. Now, when we bought the building on the Urban Cantina side, this is a masonry curtain wall, and so on that side there was a hole where some of the bricks came loose and fell into Urban Cantina.
Oops.
Right. So we bought it with a hole in the wall, which is great, right? So it's like, and so what we did was we went through and tuck pointed the whole building. We put in these helical anchors that tied all that masonry. Same thing that the Floridan is going through right now, right?
Yeah.
All that. So we did all that early on. We fixed the hole, which was great because, it just lowers the price, right? So it's fantastic.
So I want to talk about like when this thing was first sent to you, and you're evaluating it and you're kind of doing the numbers and you're thinking about it. You must have been pretty confident going in that you could fill it up with students.
Absolutely not.
Really?
Well, student housing came in after the fact.
So I really want to walk me through your thought process, because this thing is a freaking bear, right?
Yeah.
And you've sold your apartment building. Okay. So you guys have cash and you're looking for your next deal.
Yeah. Well, we hadn't sold it yet.
You hadn't sold it yet.
No, we were just looking for the next deal.
You're looking for the next deal. Right. Okay. So how far into the process did you realize let's freaking go for this thing?
Yeah. So let me just say that to be a real estate developer, and particularly in the way we do it, that we develop it, we build it, we GC it, we operate it and all that. You have to be either really stupid or arrogant. Okay, because we look back on this now and we're like, what the hell were we thinking? I mean, like, how were we just that cocky or just that stupid to do this thing, right?
Right.
So we looked at it and we go, man, this is $47 a square foot, downtown Tampa. The amazing part was it has great bones. Look at it, 360-degree glass all the way around, right? That's your original floor to ceiling glass windows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that before there was floors, you had that. So you had like, windows around the entire building. Right. And I said, you know what? I mean, so the original idea that we had, micro apartments, right? What they call in Europe apartments.
Right.
So we came up with the idea of micro apartments, and then the city said, well, you got to do in lieu of parking. Because you don't have a parking garage, now you're going to have to pay us for the fact that you can't meet the parking requirements. And they're like, okay, well, what's that? Well, that's, so if it would have been micro apartments, we were going to do like 130 something. Well, that's like 26,000 times, 100 or something. It was going to be like $3 million just to throw in a bucket, right? To say, thank you very much. Here's $3 million. So we said, so then I looked at the code and it says, okay, well, in the central business district, it's one per apartment. So I was like, okay, well, how do we get around this in lieu of parking fee? And it's like, okay, well, that means if I put a 4-bedroom apartment, it's one parking spot, right? So all of a sudden we said, well, we're just going to maximize the number of bedrooms per apartment, right? Fewer in lieu of parking fee. So that was able to downgrade it to about 300,000, right? In lieu of parking fees. And then we hired another law firm, and they didn't get what we needed. Hired Dave Mechanic, amazing guy, great guy on top of it. I mean, there ain't a whole lot of lawyers he's wonderful. Dave Mechanic is absolutely wonderful guy. Anyway, he gets with the city and basically got it grandfathered in and said, hey, this was a existing non-conforming, right?
Wow.
The damn thing, we can't even prove that it ever had parking, right?
Right.
We don't know, right? So we got it waived completely, and that's how we moved from, micro apartments, which, we got huge interest in, particularly from a lot of city employees. They're like, I can have my own little place here. We got retirees. So we're like, I can live downtown cheap, I don't need that much. And I'm right downtown. And so anyway, that's how we transitioned to student housing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
And so did you buy the deal before you're doing all this, or is this all while it's under contract?
We bought the deal in progress. Yes. So we didn't put a contingency that we had to get it, yeah. We don't do that shit anymore.
I think we talked about, before we went live, we were talking about sleepless nights and learning experiences while you're laying there in bed.
Oh God, I'll tell you.
So I can't imagine you're hard on the deal, right?
Yeah.
You're working through all this shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you come up with this, hey, we got the waiver. We don't need the parking. We'll do student housing, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. So
let's talk about that. Banks are like, yeah, okay. So you've never done student housing before. There's no bedroom bath parity, right? You have no pool. You have no parking. Yeah, we're not funding this, right? Like the banks were just like, no. Ain't gonna happen, right? They're like, this is not gonna work, right? Bill Williams from City National reached out, or we got a hold of him, and he's like, yeah, man, we love this deal, man. So, shout out to Bill, awesome guy as well. These are guys that change your life, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it could have been a disaster. We couldn't even gotten it financed because we had to close on it cash, and then we got a construction loan, right? So anyway, so they buy off on it, and we open it up. We bought it in 2017. We opened it up in 2019. So 2 years later, we're open, right? We have been 100% occupied since 2019, since the day we opened, 100% occupied in everything, retail, office, everything. It's 100% full. And we have 157 Google reviews, and every single one of them is a 5-star rating.
Wow.
We never done student housing before, right? Never done it before. So that goes to show you that sometimes people can't think outside the box, and they think that, stuff will never work. And I'm like going like, you tell me where you're going to find a building like that close. I mean, walking distance to UT, some of the views of UT from inside the building are sick, right? Sick. If you go to the website, 220madisontampa.com, you can actually see some pictures from inside. And I'm not doing that to sell. It's just if you want to see some interior pictures and what the final product
pull it up
was.
while we're talking about it.
Yeah. We got some interior pictures. See, right. I mean, that's pretty amazing stuff right there. Right. So what we liked about it was, again, the windows that's a bedroom right there with 2 of the 4 walls, just glass. This is 1962
I
built
mean, you're
building.
not even going to get that with new construction
Right.
student housing.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Go back up one a little bit. Go up. So right there, that one you can see. Look at the view of the Riverwalk right there.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's great. We do
Look how they decorate too.
We do a room decorating contest every year at the start of the
cool.
year, and so
you make it fun, and you still
Absolutely.
own, maintain, manage, all in house.
Yep.
There you go, right there. 5.0 Google reviews, 148.
And it says 148 because the little script that they use is outdated. So we were actually pointing about that yesterday. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Very cool. I want to go back to what you said about, you kind of have to find these people that are maybe as crazy or creative as you, right?
And bankers aren't crazy. Actually,
so
I will tell you that I find that people will do, in 2010, I started buying up a bunch of properties. Nobody would finance you in 2010, right? Like you can go buy a house in town and country for $48,000 and say like, nobody's going to lend you the money. But 2 years ago, 2 years before that, they would lend you $210,000 on the same house.
Right.
Right. So, they, and I look at real estate as like a train, right?
Sure.
It takes a while for it to get moving, and to get it to stop is hard. Why? Because everybody gets paid, right? Everybody gets paid. The mortgage guy gets paid. The bank gets paid. The appraiser gets paid.
Broker.
Everybody gets paid by doing the deal. When you shouldn't be doing the deal, or when you shouldn't be doing the deal at that point in time, you should be doing every deal possible in 2010, right? And nobody would do it, right? And so that was kind of the, and so that's what I see there to be opportunities.
Sure.
I mean, when the Accardis bought that old Moss Brothers spot, right? Across that parking, the people before paid $7.5 million for it. They picked it up for like 2.5 or something like that. It was ridiculous, right?
Wow.
So, yeah.
Full city block too, right?
Yeah, full city block.
So when you hear no from bankers, did you start to think, shit, what did we do? Did we bite off more than we could chew?
No. I was just like, we got to find a bank.
So you were basically, in
100%.
your head, you're like, I'm just going to talk to a banker until they will do the deal.
Look, man, we were already in. We owned it. We got to go.
Do or die.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Right. There is no, I don't know. Should we? No, it's like, let's go. There's no other way. Right. There's no other way. So I mean, look at that. That's a fantastic product, right?
And then you mentioned before too, you've scraped this whole interior out. Everything you see in this picture is brand new.
Yes.
Not brand new. 19, right? 17 to 19.
Yes,
you
correct.
were doing construction.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this was a huge project because you're doing how many units in this thing?
48.
48 doors.
48 doors, 136 beds. Yeah.
Got it.
Plus the third floor, plus all the infrastructure, new fire pump, new chillers, all that stuff.
Now, this is a challenging site, right? I mean, you don't have
in
these
the
like,
center of Tampa, in the most pedestrianly walked area in Tampa.
And there's no parking lot,
no
for
parking,
staging, construction,
no equipment,
right?
Nothing. So what we did was to demo the building, and we just do like this. This was one of these nightmares that I came up with. I'm like, how am I going to demo this thing, right? And so I'm like, the normal construction GC idea would be like, well, we're going to take out some windows. We're going to put a chute. We'll have a bunch of dumpsters out there. And then, and so now you're going to have stuff falling from the 12th floor, hitting that dumpster, dust everywhere, in the most pedestrianly transit area in downtown Tampa. I said, that shit ain't going to work. Right. So I came up with this. I had a dream. I was like, that's what we'll do. So we got these tilt trucks, the little, the things that you fill trash in that would fit into the elevator, right? So we didn't even put an exterior elevator in either. We did it all with the elevators that were existing inside. So we put
the tried and true Otis elevators.
The tried and true, bulletproof.
Yeah.
The steel is super thick. It doesn't dent anything. I can't tell you how much abuse these things took in construction, and they still ran perfect, right? So you would be able to push the tilt trucks into the, you put about 2 tilt trucks in each elevator, and we had 24 of them. We rented a U-Haul trailer, truck, one of the U-Haul moving things, so it would fit 12 of them. So we were, and then the dump was about 1.5 miles away on 34th Street or 38th Street. And so we're running like a mile each way. The U-Haul cost me $19 a day, plus the mileage, which was probably like 20 miles a day. we would do 7 runs a day. And at lunchtime, when everybody's walking around, we would stop. The tilt trucks would be inside. And then everybody runs through. And then once everybody goes back to the workout, we'd start doing it again. And we'd do 7 of those a day.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was fantastic.
Now you didn't have to do it that way. Like the city didn't say, hey,
no, they didn't.
So what made you want to do it in a good neighborly way? Just to be a good neighbor?
I mean, do you want people complaining about dust? You know,
some developers don't give a shit.
Well, yeah, but then you're going to get shut down by OSHA and all kinds of stuff. We had, there was asbestos in the building. We had to do all that abatement. We had people like, like asbestos. And, every time we test, it'd be like super low and all that stuff. But yeah, man, it was so, this is like we were talking about earlier, community engagement. Look, pay me now or pay me later, right? I'd rather deal with that on the front end where it's less headache than try and do it on the back end
when everyone's pissed off.
Because once they're pissed off, you can't take that back too easy. Right. Now, if you're listening to people and taking their ideas in and all that, you're listening to you. I don't send a note saying, by the way, we're having a city council meeting in 3 weeks. Right. And then all of a sudden you get the blue shirt people and the red shirt people and this sucks and all that. We had probably, for our Interbay Commons project, we probably had 10 community meetings in person, online. I went out and physically went to the neighbors' homes, had a beer with them, talk about the issues, all that kind of stuff. Because if you don't do that, once you get resistance, it's dead. You're dead.
It fosters and grows.
It turns into animosity that you can't dial back, right? So I don't want that. I mean, and honestly, I don't want to do a deal that I have to be jamming anything through. If it is, I don't need that shit in my life, right? So it's like, either everybody wants to do it, or I'm not going to try and jam it in, because the reality is, I am not trying to be a billionaire. I'm not trying to, have, 5,000 units. Part of it is I enjoy this stuff. Yeah, I really do. And part of that comes from the fact that my dad had an antique shop. He was and we would take old shit and make it new. And I just like, I like building stuff. And so it's
the process of it.
Look, I'm financially secure. I don't need to do stuff. And I'm a very low burn rate guy. I still pay myself, $4,000 a month. That's like what it's like, so it's, it's about keeping, when you keep your burn rate low, you don't have to make decisions that are based on money, because that sucks, right? So you want to base your decisions on, is it a good project? Is it a fun project? Am I adding value? Will the neighborhood like it? Those are things that I look at in a project, not just, we can make this kind of amount of money, right? Why? I mean, that's not, I'm not a hedge fund. I'm not trying to obviously my investors, my partners have done amazingly well because we've done pretty damn good on a lot of our stuff. But it's not because we went into that saying we're going to suck every penny out, right? So one of the reasons why we have, for example, 5-star ratings on our stuff is, somebody breaks the table, it's fine, right? We got it. Don't worry about it. I remember one time there was a table that was all scratched up, and I'm like, oh, we got to charge her. And my property manager goes, she's been here 3 years. That's an IKEA $20 table. I'm like, what am I thinking? Of course. Right. I had a kid. Who broke up with his girlfriend, was living in the building, right? He's drunk as shit. He's got a handle of Tito's vodka outside the door, knocking on the door like, come on, I want to see you, this and that, and she wouldn't open the door. Well, guess what? There's a fire pull station right next to him. So he's drunk. He says, well, this is one way I'm going to get her to open the door. Pulls the fire control. The whole building gets evacuated. It's all on camera because we got cameras through the whole building, right? So, most places would have gone like, you owe us $1,000 and all this. Now, I came from the Navy, right? So we used to have a thing called captain's mass. And that's usually where the captain would chew your fucking ass off, like right in front of you'd have the executive officer there, your platoon commander, your master chief, everybody's there. And the guy, you make him stand there and you basically will just drill into him. Right. And that's what I did. I had like a captain's mask. Oh yeah. I had a captain's mask with him.
You personally had this kid come to your office.
Come in. Yes. And I read him and I said, listen, man, you're not even going to know this girl's name in 3 years. Right. So, get your head out of your butt, don't do this stuff again. I don't want to see you back in here again. Right. And did I charge him anything? No. Did I give him a life lesson to put things in perspective? Absolutely. Most people won't do that. They'll be like, if I was like Gray Rock,
most people wouldn't do it. You're the developer,
right? Well, I'm the operator at that point in time, right? So I'm operating it, right?
Well, you've worn a lot of hats during this project. You've also been the contractor, right? The construction manager and all that sort of stuff.
But you know what? I didn't charge the guy anything, and it didn't go beyond that, right? It was like I just said, hey, listen, man, don't be an idiot. Don't ever do this again. I'm not going to take any punitive measures against you, but this was stupid as I'm trying to cut the profanities out because I'm a Navy guy. So this is not a smart move, right?
We're on the internet, man. You say whatever you want.
All right. So anyway, so that was it.
And that's how you solved it.
I solved it there.
I've never heard of a building owner doing something like that. Usually you'd come to the leasing office with your head down.
All the military folks would know exactly what I'm talking about. So they know that sometimes that's what you have to do with particularly young kids. So they think that they're so emotional about stuff and all that. And I'm like, come on, man.
I'm sure he learned something that day.
He did.
That's for damn sure.
He did.
Let's talk about the numbers, though. So what did you buy this building for?
Man, see, this is where having a good partner is fantastic.
You got a numbers guy?
I'm the ops guy, man. I'm the ops guy. I'm marketing. And then my partner, Gil, which I'll tell you, that if you go to do a startup, right? The first thing that the VC guys ask you, because we did a software startup, me and Gil, like who's your co-founder? Because you're never good at everything by yourself, right? So Gil is my guy, man. He is the numbers guy, and I handle all the other stuff. Like he handles all the lining up the financing, the banking, setting the rates on what we should charge, and he handles taxes. He handles all that. I deal with the kid pulling the fire alarm. I deal with the construction portion of it. I deal with the operation portion of it, the marketing portion of it. That's how we segregate it, and it has been a phenomenal relationship. So, I was going to start reviewing numbers before I came. I'm like, I don't even know.
Just to give a rough idea, you
said like what, 4.5, 4.7,
$4.5 million bucks, something like that.
Right.
What is it worth today?
30. Wow. I put about 9 into it. So, 100% unlevered return, obviously levered. It's, plus all the cash flows have been fantastic, so,
wow.
So it's been great. Designating it historical was about a $6 million benefit.
$6 million benefit.
Yes.
Now, what do you get for designating it historical?
Tax credits. 1, 2, property tax abatement. 3, I could not change the windows. Isn't that horrible?
Yeah, what a shame.
It's terrible.
But that was a part of that deal. You couldn't
historically
change that facade.
You can't change the windows, right? Yeah, you can't.
Does this also have to do with the parking waiver?
No, separate issue.
But grandfathered in.
This has to do with National Park Service and
this is a whole
this
overarching...
is a nationally historically designated building. So because of that, we had about $2.7 million in tax credits.
Wow.
That we sold. One of our I don't know if I should say it or not, but anyway, we sold to a national manufacturer. Nothing to do with real estate, but they buy tax credits. So we sold it at 85 cents on the dollar, right? So if they have a $1 million tax liability, they buy it for 85 cents. And then they sell.
Shift.
So now that instead of paying $1 million, they pay $850,000.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we could talk about that offline. But that's really interesting. So in exchange for you guys preserving this building, You put millions of dollars into it.
So I'm going to tell you something else before we change off that topic. Chaz and Adam from Soho Capital with Armature Works, they did a thing called New Markets Tax Credit. And that we get 20% tax credit for this one. They get I think it was 40%. So for every dollar that they spend, they get 40 cents back in tax credits that you can sell. So tell me how you can't make money on that.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, the laws have changed now. You can't take all the taxes in the same year like you can, like we used to. Same thing with the new markets. It's kind of changed. New markets is more for commercial.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's, and this is stuff that we had no idea about when we first started.
So I want to talk about that. Is it a knowledge thing? Is that the reason why more buildings don't get saved? Like the other one over one Tampa, right? They bulldozed that one in First Watch. Was that because the building wasn't?
Well, the building was, first of all, never historically designated.
Okay.
Right. So Coulter bought that building. They had checked. It's not. And then
it was on no list.
Yeah. Everything was good to go. And then when they go to file the permits, and the historical department of the city of Tampa said, "Hey, no, And so, Dennis Fernandez, great guy, city of Tampa historical. They do good work. We've dealt with them a lot. Historical is going to have a very hard time in the future. I mean, you look at the stuff to build. To do change the windows, for example, in a house in Ybor that's historically designated. Well, now you've got to spend $2,000 to put in, a window that's got to be impact rated wood frame. Well, people don't have the money for that.
Well, hence the tax credit, hence the incentives.
Well, but
right?
not on a small guy like that. You don't have a guy in Ybor City with a wood frame house, 1920s era, getting tax credits, right? So you're going to have, and now with insurance, those things are going to be almost impossible to insure, right? So we're going to have to come to a realization on historical preservation that there's going to be a lot fewer properties that are going to be saved, because you just can't do it from an insurance perspective. Insurance, I will tell you right now, is going to be one of the biggest drags on the global economy going forward, because without insurance, there's no financing. Okay.
Right.
And we're seeing that insurance is starting to break down all over the place. But that's going to make historical very hard, because how do there's a lot of these guys are already paying $8,000 a year in just insurance. So, the house isn't, a lot of these houses aren't even worth anything.
I mean, this little building was like $6,500.
Yeah, exactly. And you're in a flood zone?
No,
not even in a flood zone, right? So,
high and dry,
yeah.
Block construction, 80s vintage, $6,500.
And think if you're like a 1940s, 1920s built house in Palmetto Beach,
right? Uninsurable
land value only,
right?
You can't sell it. I mean, you might own it.
A bank can't even finance you on that.
Well, they can, but I mean, you're gonna be looking at $9,000 to $10,000 in insurance a year. What's the value of a house for that?
Right.
It ain't going to happen. So you're going to see SWATs. I mean, I feel, unfortunately, this is going to happen in Hyde Park too. A lot of 1920s, 30s bungalow wood frame built to,
that flood line keeps creeping up too. That designation keeps getting lost.
It's going to get harder and harder. And so, I do think historical, and I know we kind of drifted a little bit, but I think historical preservation is going to have a very tough road going forward.
It's an important conversation though, because this is a historic building.
Yeah.
The cigar factory, which we'll talk about in a second, was historical.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
My question, and
which, by the way, I'm going to just point out,
sure,
with both storms, okay, Hilton and Helene, this is where me and about 50 of my friends and family come to spend hurricanes. So when you mention the word hurricanes to my kids, they're like, let's go, right? Like they're ready.
Slumber party at
They're having a slumber party on the 3rd floor. We got videos up and games, and they go in the movie theater and all that stuff. This property has never lost power, not once.
Wow.
Flood zone X right there. and evacuation zone C. It's actually one of the few buildings in downtown Tampa that's in evacuation
That thing's
zone
like a
C.
fortress, man.
Well, it actually drops quite a bit from here. If you look on the sides, you'll see you can see the line.
You can actually see down the road right there.
Yes. The cigar factory, evacuation zone D, never lost power. We were here during the whole time during the hurricane. And we also had management stay on property at the cigar lofts as well. So, we don't leave our properties. We stay there. And in both cases, we never lost power. And we had no impact to the building whatsoever.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
David, can you pull up First Watch? Just type in First Watch Building Tampa and see if it pulls up. Last thing on historical designation. And I know you probably can't answer this question, obviously.
And by the way, it may pull up the new First Watch.
It probably will, because I know they moved to
which is cool, by the way,
where Buddy Brew is, right?
Yeah,
Park
around the backside,
which is now
by the way,
ConnectWise.
Another great restaurant addition to downtown Tampa, around the same block, right?
First Watch.
Yeah, it's right down the street.
First Watch is incredible.
Yeah.
We need more breakfast spots.
Yeah.
Just go to images. Let me see, because it was in the news. Yeah.
So there's the demo of the building right there. Yeah. So
yeah, but I'm trying to find. Okay, here it is, right here, David.
Yeah.
Now look at that thing. That is an architecturally significant, very old, beautiful downtown building.
Did you ever go inside?
To First Watch.
Did you ever go inside that building? The other stories?
No.
Disaster.
For real?
It was
Structural
structurally
issues.
trashed.
But here's the thing. Why would that not be on a historically designated list?
Wasn't.
That's the main question I have.
Wasn't. Was it the developer's fault that it wasn't?
Of course not.
Right. So it wasn't, right? So that actually, I think, there was a McDonald's up on the ground floor of that at some point in time. So,
but that's curious to me. Like, clearly this
didn't happen. Well, honestly, it was. I had walked through all those because we were looking at maybe doing something with that building.
Sure, yeah.
And it was a disaster inside
Really?
structurally. So now, what are they doing? If we go back up, this is going to be like a facade.
Yeah.
That's going to, I mean, like, come on, man.
Well, first of all,
I wish you would have just gone with the whole modern view instead of this kind of like fake.
You don't like that?
No, man. It's
I
garbage.
think if done right, it's
No.
a good nod to what was once there. I'm a huge history
you know
buff.
what?
And by the way, in no way am
Put
I
a couple
blaming Coulter.
kiosks, take pictures,
I
old
get
photos.
it. I get it.
But that, what's it going to look like? I don't know. It's not going to look like the old one, right? Is it going to be brick?
Well, look,
I don't know.
It looks pretty damn good in this rendering, but I have a feeling it's not going to end up.
I think
nice.
that they were forced into this, and honestly, I think it changed the whole. Listen, man. You got that iconic new building that's going in.
Sure.
That facade just doesn't go with that, right? Now you see that if you look at it, 220 Matters, you could point over there. We are in the shade, so I expect my electric bill to go down quite a bit. Because
so you're happy.
Well, we're gonna
miss a little.
We're gonna lose a
view.
little of the view. Yeah, you can see it kind of in the shadow there, but yeah, it should cut down on our electric bill quite a bit, and so
I don't blame Coulter at all. Look, it's not on the list, right? It's not their fault. I believe in property rights, but at the end of the day, why was it never on a list? Why was it not preserved over the decades?
It wasn't their fault.
It's not their fault at all. I actually applaud them for incorporating it into the new design.
They did their due diligence.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Pull up the big picture where they're doing the facade on the right.
The Tampa Bay Business Journal.
Yeah, right there.
No,
here in the middle.
There you go. That one. I don't know what the materials are going to be on that.
Try to zoom in on that.
Yeah, well.
The problem I have is if it's not brick and it's like a kind of fake stucco look, it's going to look like shit, I don't know what their plan is. I hope they try to figure out a way to do a good job. But I also think you're right. Maybe a better alternative would to say, hey, look, at this point, what are you going to do?
Put a historical part that's open to the public maybe in that area that they can check out what was there and maybe other historical stuff.
Not even like if you're going to do a new building, do a beautiful new building.
Absolutely.
But
this is it's not fish or fowl. I mean, I don't know what the hell it is.
I don't mind that though. I think that looks pretty sweet.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Let's see what the final product is.
We will see. And I would love to
And I mean, these guys do good product, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many people I know. I got one of my business partners is buying two units side by side there. I got a friend of mine from MBA school that doesn't live in Tampa and said, hey man, you're in Tampa. I'm buying a place over there.
Yeah.
I got 3 residents on Harbor Island that I know of that are going to be buying a place there. That's the wifey. Yeah. Ring twice and you get through.
Right.
So, yeah. So, but yeah.
Do we need to pause if you want to take it?
Let's just see.
Yeah, check it out.
She's doing a walking tour of Ybor with my daughter. That the school at Gorey is going to the History Museum in Ybor.
Good.
Yeah, which is great.
Good. Teach the kids history.
So then my wife says, "Hey, what's the name of our cigar factory?" Because she wants to mention it to see if she can see it in the.
Do you know what tour she's on? Is it Ybor City Walking Tours with Max Herman?
I don't know which one it is.
Okay.
So it's the Gorey's.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, I'm sure it is. He's got the premier tour over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, take it. We can take a pause here if you need.
Just real quick.
We're back, everybody. We had to take a little break.
Yes.
Let's move on, though. I want to talk about...
And I want to say why the break, because my wife just left Ybor history tour with my daughter, and they were talking about the history of the Cuban sandwich, the Cubans moving to Ybor City, our cigar factory that we converted. So my daughter came out super pumped up, and my wife, who happens to be Turkish, is like, "I'm so glad I married a Cuban."
Okay, so that's good. They're doing that today. That's perfect.
So it was good. So
love it. Did you confirm if they were with Max Herman?
I did not.
Oh, shoot. Well, maybe we'll find out later.
Yeah.
I want to talk about kind of going back to where you got involved in all this stuff, your career path, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned you're from an immigrant family. You guys all shacked up in one house, which is an awesome story.
Yeah.
You had the funny uncle upstairs
Yep.
doing his thing.
Yeah.
Where did you kind of talk to me about where you got an interest in real estate? You did mention your family owned an antique shop. Go from there.
My mom was a genius in real estate. Okay. So I'm a combination of my dad, who was the chemical engineer, basically a scientist, intellectually super curious, didn't give a crap about money at all.
Yeah.
I remember him talking to me about the idea of creating noise canceling headphones 20 years before the first ones from Bose came out.
Wow.
He came up with this insect thing because he was had a little farm when he retired and divorced my mom. He went out to a little place over in Moorhaven in the center and had a bug problem. The damn thing was so efficient. He was just using a fan, a light, and dishwashing soap, and was concerned that he was going to like kill off the entire insect population because it was just killing so many insects at a time. It was just nuts. So he was super funny, outgoing, personable guy, unbelievable. My mom, hard nosed, very focused on money, very focused on status and all that stuff, but brilliant in real estate. We had 2 acres in that we were building boats and stuff, and it had the antique and plating place over in Drew Park, and my mom was like, let's do storage, and we're talking about like, this is like late 70s, early 80s, right?
Wow.
And my dad was like, well, that's not me, right? I work. I do things. I build stuff. And I'm not here to collect money, right? And my mom was like, this is a moneymaker. If my dad would have followed my mom on doing storage, I guarantee you my mom would have been a billionaire, because you know how much storage there is right now? And I mean, you're talking about...
Especially if you started in the 1970s.
70s?
Yeah.
I mean, she started flipping houses in the 70s and 80s when nobody had any idea of what that was, right? Because she figured out that people didn't have the money to buy a house and fix it, but they could finance it, right? And so there was a margin to be made in that arbitrage, right? And so she started, flipping houses when nobody knew what that was.
And this is in Tampa.
In Tampa. Yeah.
Wellswood,
anywhere. It was all over the place. Wow. Town and country, a lot in town and country and stuff. And man, she was sharp.
And how old were you when she was doing this?
10, 12.
Wow, so you were a boy watching your mom hustle and
with multiple listing books in the car. They used to have books
before it was a website.
Oh yeah, no, it was like they'd issue you a book with all of the listings every week. You get a book of them, and she was intense, man. And so when I opened up a real estate brokerage, back in the day, I said, I think the Hispanic market's going to be big and all that. There was a guy, we opened up Aventa Real Estate Services, and we had mortgage, title, and the real estate part. But my idea was there was a Latino home loans and a Latino mortgage and all that. And I said, well, why do we want to pigeon ourselves into nobody, an Irish guy doesn't want to have a Latino home loans or a Latino realty sign on a house. But, if I can make it like Arvida and all that.
Right.
So we called it Aventa, right? Well, in Spanish, a la venta means for sale. So we had Aventa, and so it had a nice ring that Hispanics would go, got that.
Right.
Right? But non-Spanish speaking people would go like, oh, it's a cool name, right? Modern sounding name. So we actually did this big one of my neighbors at Dana Shores at the time was the station manager for Univision, and he had approached Latino Home Loans because they were running commercials on Univision all the time about doing this helpline, and so they were trying to sell it to him, and Latino guy said, no, I don't want to do that and all that, and so he approached me, and I was like, perfect way to launch my business. So I had no realtors or anything. We set up this Aventa helpline. Like I had a couple of realtors, but I went around to all the Hispanic realtors in the area. I said, hey, you want to be on it answering phone calls? So it looked like I had a massive organization right off the bat.
Yeah.
And we're the go-to guys because we're on the helpline, right? So it's like,
oh, wow.
I mean, we just blew that thing up amazingly. It was crazy.
So that was your first real estate venture.
That was my first real estate brokerage venture, right? Real estate ventures, I think I flipped my first house when I was 18, right? So we bought a house over in Tampa Shores with my mom and flipped that thing, and so yeah. She argued about what was her cut and my cut. I mean, I'll tell you, man, she was hardcore.
Is your mom still around?
No, she passed away last year.
Sorry to hear that. Because she passed away last year, so she got to see you do this project, this building here. Yeah. So started out flipping houses and ended up flipping a building.
Quick one, right? So Goizeta was the CEO of Coca-Cola, right? Mm-hmm. Cuban guy, right? And he told his mom, he's like, hey, I'm the CEO of Coca-Cola. And the mom goes, so what does that mean? Do you own it? Like my mom was kind of the same way when I showed her, like, hey, I got a little bit
of a ball buster.
Yeah,
type.
I was like, I got this 220 thing. She's like, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah,
so, whatever. Yeah, like I expect more. Why aren't you living in a bigger house? That kind of thing.
27 stories. Why isn't it 35 stories?
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, she was
wow.
intense.
So you just grew up in that world. You watched your mom do it. You did it at a young age. So that sounds like it was kind of always going to be the way you were going to figure out a way to make money.
And then my dad was like super hands on. I remember we grew up in Baycrest. One of my neighbors had a go-kart, and I was like, man, I want a go-kart too. My dad's like, we're gonna build one. We're not buying one. We're going to build one, so we had to build one, and I lived on Driftwood Drive in Baycrest, and we had an island behind the house, right? There was a canal, but the canal had an island. So just imagine you're 6'7", you got your own boat, right? You have an island behind your house, and there's a thing called Gasparilla. So can you imagine like a better childhood? I mean, it was insane. I need to go back over there and like just go through and see how many bottles and cans and jars that we buried over there.
Where was this?
Baycrest.
Can we pull it up on the map?
Baycrest.
Remember the address?
7023 Driftwood. No, Driftwood Drive. Put Driftwood Drive. Tampa.
Yeah, see if it pulls up.
33615.
I want to see your island.
Yeah.
So would you went on there and you
Driftwood 33615.
Probably just a small island, not big enough to have like rabbits or anything.
No,
like
it's
that.
just small. Yeah, just enter.
So
Driftwood Drive, Town and Country.
You'd build forts.
Boom. There's the island right there.
Oh shit, man!
Look at that thing. So, and then we built commercial fishing boats. At one point in time, I had 3 45-foot commercial fishing boats behind our house.
Oh my God. I'm sure your neighbors
nuts.
loved that.
Oh, it was crazy. So I literally go from that, see that circular driveway to the right where the dot is, right where the place marker is. If you see that circular driveway was the shape of Cuba. Was in the middle. Nobody knew that. I didn't even. But there was a thing that made out of coral rock that my dad had, and there was a lighthouse, and the lighthouse was where Havana was.
Oh my God.
So it was cool. So we would literally take the boat out, go over to the island, hang out on the island, do all kinds of crazy stuff. And that was, I mean, it was idyllic. And I went to Baycrest Elementary School on the other side, and there was all this vacant land.
So this was the hood right
here.
here.
My God, dude. It was, one time we caught that area around Spinnaker Cove on fire because we were shooting bottle rockets at each other.
Oh, Jesus.
And Roman candles. Yeah, it was
I
think the statute of limitations have gone on that already. So, but it wasn't purposely. It wasn't on purpose anyway. So it was by accident. But yeah, that was Driftwood. That place got decimated with the storms.
Oh yeah,
decimated. So think about it. Those houses are going to get FEMA'd out. Okay. Are you going to put up $1 million house there? I don't know. that's going to be an interesting place.
It'll happen one day though. You're great access to the highways, the airport. You're kind of in the city-ish a little bit. You can get to St. Pete and your waterfront.
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of waterfront. That's for sure. Right. So so I don't know what's going to happen. There was a lot of folks, a lot of working class folks lived in that neighborhood that could still afford a waterfront home. Now you're FEMA'd out. Now you got to go vertical. Now you got to build the $600,000 house. Now the good news is people don't understand this. If you get FEMA'd out, and let's say you had a 1,200 square foot house, or let's say you had a 2,000 square foot house, right? You can rebuild that house to new FEMA codes, elevate it up and all that, and build up to 110% of the square footage, and you will still pay the same property taxes.
So first of all, explain to people what being FEMA'd out means.
So if the house sustains more than 50% of the value of the property in damage, and the repairs cost more than 50% of you can't repair it. You have to bring it up to the original standards. So that means all these slab-on-grade houses have to be raised up 14 feet. Flood zone elevation, right? So from flood zone, so if it's at 5, you got to go up, another 6. But at the end of the day, you're probably just making a garage on the bottom floor. Right?
And then I was just talking to someone about it yesterday regarding the property taxes. Is that a Hillsborough County thing?
I think it's a state thing.
It's a state thing.
Yeah.
So if you build new construction, and the value does not exceed 100.
No, the square footage.
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
If the square footage, the heated square footage of the house does not exceed 110%, you don't have to pay any additional property taxes.
Meaning I have a 2,000 square foot home.
Yeah. Yep. And you build it to 20. Yeah, and you build 2,200 square feet, new construction, elevated up. You will pay the same property taxes as what you were paying before.
So that's good.
Even though the house is now worth $1 million, you're only paying. So that's to make sure that people don't get pushed out of their houses.
That's a good rule, and it also stops people from just building new to sell a $3 million, 5,000 square
5,000 square foot house and all that,
and stuff. Also enjoy benefits.
Right now, if you build it, let's say 20% bigger, you only have to pay the additional 10%. That gets adjusted.
So either way, you've got kind of a cushion area.
Yes, right, exactly.
That's a great program. I didn't know that existed. So that's
something I learned recently too.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. So you're a pirate on the island. You're 10. You're crushing it. Awesome. Great childhood.
Amazing.
Parents kind of offering you these different perspectives. Your mom's heavily into real estate. You're flipping your first house at 18.
Yep.
Where does the military come in?
I'm at Hillsborough Community College, and I'm like, they had some because I paid for all my school, all my college and everything. I needed, I was like, well, I want to do the military. I want to, it's like I'm the first generation. I want to kind of serve a little bit, and so I joined the reserves, and so I did that, and I remember I said, well, I'm going to study engineering, so I want to be like a combat engineer. And my detailer is the person that kind of helps you, the recruiter. She basically said, it was the recruiter. She's like, combat engineers go ahead to the front lines and clear mines. And I'm like, well, that's not exactly the engineering I was looking to do. And she goes, but I have this boat unit over in St. Pete that you should check out. I said, oh, what kind of jobs do you have there? She's like, well, we have the mechanic. That's the diesel mechanic, and then you have the bosun mate that's on the deck. And I said, well, diesel mechanic, at least I can like learn, diesel mechanics and all that stuff. And then she's like, the bosun job has a $5,000 bonus. I'm like going like, I'll do that. And it turned out to be one of the best decisions ever because, the other guys were in the boat laboring on the diesel engines. And we're kind of sitting back on the deck going like, hey, are we ready to go yet or what?
Right.
And so this was first Gulf War. They were talking about it being a landing craft into, like Kuwait and all that. And that would have been us. So I'm like, I'm out, I'm going to be deployed like right away. And so we had some intel guy that came in and talked to the unit and said, you guys don't talk about anything, this and that. And cause I was like, I'm gone, right? We're going to be, we're done. And that's when it was all land from Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So they never called us up. And I was like, so I was like, thank God. If it would have been a combat engineer, it would have been like front lines and the whole thing and all that stuff.
Landmines and shit. Yeah.
So anyway, I was in college. I was at USF at the time. And I'm going to just quick 2 minute on a life-changing guy. I had to take calculus I took at Hillsborough Community College. But the guy who taught the calculus said, I'm not teaching a 3 credit hour class. It'll be a 5 credit hour class. And it'll be Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning. That's it. The guy's name was Urachaga. And
it's not what you want to hear as a 19-year-old kid.
No. And I was like, I said, okay, listen, I am going to, I said towards the end of the class, I was spending like 4 hours a day studying calc, right? And I told him towards the end of the class, I said, I don't have to take a math class ever again. And he goes, why? I said, I'm going building construction at UF. He goes, bring me the paperwork. And the next day, I took him the paperwork. And then the next day, he comes back and he says, you can take that degree and you can put it in your bathroom. And my dad says, he's telling you, you can wipe your ass with the degree. And so he convinced me to go engineering at USF. And I took Calc 2, Calc 3, and differential equations at USF and got smoked them with A's because this guy had busted my chops and I got a C in his calc class.
Wow.
So that guy, you never know when people are going to change the trajectory of your life. That guy changed. And I actually was trying to look him up the other day, passed in 2020. But that guy was instrumental in changing my life. So anyway, I go to USF.
Because of how hard he pushed you in that moment?
Yeah. And he's basically saying like, don't aim small, aim big, go become an engineer, And I went to Tampa Catholic and I graduated with like a C average, right? And so like my dad was pushing me to like, let's teach the guy a skill. Let's send him to Votech and let's teach him how to weld, right? And my mom was like, absolutely not. He's going to college, And so my dad was a chemical engineer. So I ended up taking thermodynamics at USF. And thermodynamics is taught by the chemical engineering department. When you get an A in thermo, you're automatically admitted to the College of Chemical Engineering, right? The chemical engineering department. So when I got that, I got an A and I gave it to my dad and I said, see, I could go chemi, but I'm not. I'm going civil. And so he was pretty proud about that too. So that was good.
That's awesome.
So then I ended up graduating from USF. I was in a bachelor degree completion program for the Navy, was actually on active duty while I was in college, got out, went in the Naval Civil Engineer Corps, managed construction projects in Puerto Rico, as an assistant resident officer in charge of construction, then went to NMCB 40, which is the Seabees in California. We deployed to Spain, and then half the group went to Bosnia. I spoke Spanish, which is one of the reasons why I got to go to Puerto Rico for a duty station and why I got to go to Spain. I applied for an MBA scholarship through the Consortium for Graduate Studies in Management, got a full ride to University of North Carolina, and was there for 2 years. Started working in high tech. We're talking about like 1999, so like the internet was just, I was trying to buy coupons.com because I came up with this idea you print your coupons at home, right? Mm. And then I was also working on eFish because I was thinking we could set up these where they catch fish locally. You place an order online, and then we would FedEx the fish directly, fresh from the location. These were different ideas I had. Anyway,
sure.
Ended up working at Nortel Networks. That's where I met my business partner, doing infrastructure stuff, and then got sent to England, and I was there for a while. That whole thing busted. And so I came back here to Tampa because, the whole .com thing imploded. Came back here to Tampa, started working for a foundations contractor, was doing reserve duty at the same time and doing part-time real estate. The part-time real estate I was making like $5 an hour doing reserve duty because it was like, you had fit reps and evals and all this stuff that you had to do. And then you make $200 on a weekend. I was like, it's just, I can't do it. It's just, it was too much. And I just had a daughter and stuff. And I was like, okay. So I had the side, and then, when you make the jump is when you start making more money on your little side gig than you do on the base one. So I was like making like 10 grand a month, selling real estate, part-time. And I'm making like, $4 grand a month doing my little project manager thing. And so I was like, well, I think it's time to go. And then I started working for a guy full time. And I was like, yeah, man, this guy is not, I'm like, I can't work. I got to do my own thing. And so I came up with this business plan. And again, still working for the foundations contractor, still doing the reserve, doing the business plan for all that. Launched Events Construction. That was a huge hit. But I got to the point in 2007 that I realized that this market was going to crash. I mean, I felt it. And I'm like, our main clients were Hispanic first-time home buyers. And I said, I can't tell somebody to buy a house now. I can't. In no way can I recommend.
What gave you that indication so early on, right? Well, 07 was pretty early.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, man. So I was actually dating a girl who was she managed a mortgage-backed security portfolio for Fannie Mae, and so we had desktop underwriter, and I ran a deal one time that was a guy who had a 507 credit score, and he with one bank statement, with one tax return and one pay stub, and got like a 7% interest rate. I was like, this guy shouldn't even be renting. Right. It's like, and he got like a half of what a subprime loan would have done, even though they stopped doing them. So I said,
remember how much the purchase was?
I don't know, it was like 200 grand or something, right? So,
but at the time you're like, what the fuck?
I said, this is not right. And then here's another one. When you see that shit doesn't make sense, it's usually because it doesn't make sense.
Right.
So I had the mortgage company part. I had this kid was doing these loans and these negative AM loans, right? 1.95% teaser rate for 2 years, right? It was really a 13.5% interest, but you only had to pay the lender 1.95, right? No escrows for taxes and no escrows for insurance, right? And they paid us as a mortgage broker 8 points up front. Now you tell me who lends money on those terms, right? And I was like, when I saw that, I was like, wait.
So the buyer had literally like no skin in the game.
No skin in the game.
Doesn't even the keys back.
Doesn't have to insure the property. Doesn't have to pay the taxes on it. The lender's only getting 1.95%, and they're paying us 8 points up front. And I'm like going, how?
They're just selling notes.
How does this work?
Yeah.
Well, if you see, what's the name of the movie?
The Big Short. Yes.
You see The Big Short. You take dog shit, you mix it with cat shit, you fucking roll it in horse shit, and then mix it all together. And that's how they were coming up with this stuff, because they knew in 2 years, what were we going to do? Refi.
Right.
And they would just do it all over again. And that's when I said, this is crazy. And I said, no, I'm out.
Were you an investor at the time? Did you own real estate?
I sold my last house in 2007. And I started buying up everything I could in 2010.
How did you see that coming? So you were off the table when the crash occurred. You didn't have any holdings.
I was in Iraq in 2000. And by December 2007, I was like, I'm out. I don't want to have anything to do with this. And I'm making, $250,000 a year in Iraq.
So you were a contractor over in Iraq.
Yeah.
What were you doing over there?
So basically I was, I was basically doing what I did when my first job in the Navy was managing construction contracts. They had set up several of these construction companies that were previously doing work for the military. And what happened was originally the Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was administering the contracts, but they were trying to run them like you do in the States, right? These are war zones. I mean, it's like you're not going to be, you have to be a lot more fluid. So the customers in this case, the military people that needed these facilities built said, we can't do this with the Corps of Engineers. They're just too rigid. So the way the military breaks down construction, the Air Force has been kind of tasked as the environmental people. And so, with environmental, everything's a lot more fluid. You don't know exactly what it is. It's more like cost plus contracts and all that. So they started handing off the projects to the Air Force contractors that had been focused on environmental. So I got picked up by those guys. It was one of my previous clients who was trying to get me to go in 2003. And in 2007, I said, yo, man, I think this is not going to work out. I was going through a divorce. I was like, I want to put as many time zones away from my ex-wife as possible. And I can't I can't tell anyone to buy a house now, and I don't want to do it. Right. I just don't want to do it because I know I'm going to be jamming people in houses that shouldn't be buying a house.
Yeah.
So I said, I got to find something else to do. And so I went over there, and it turned out to be great. I was over there. I was in Iraq. I built the 7th Division for the Iraqi Army because
it's a lot of money too. 250, right? At that time?
And it was great because it cleared my head. I was working out on a regular basis. It was good work. We were doing a good thing because Wolfowitz and Bremer, who were, in the administration, Bush administration, basically, tore down the military in Iraq. They basically said it's like a Nazi organization. We're going to get rid of it. And that's the day that happened was the day that the insurgency happened in Iraq. Before that, we were cool. So that turned into a shit show. And then it became that the U.S. military was having to take on all the military activities. And so they said, we got to stand these guys back up. So that's when we started building facilities for the Iraqi military. And that's what I was doing. So the work I was doing was essentially taking U.S. soldiers out of harm's way and putting the Iraqis back in charge of doing their own military and policing their own thing.
Right.
By that time, the genie was out of the bottle a little bit in terms of the secularism of Iraq. It was kind of non-secular before. It was the top part of Iraq, the Erbil had the Kurds, lots of oil. The Shia had the south, lots of oil, and Saddam Hussein's ethnicity, the Sunni, were in the middle, didn't have a lot of oil. So when he was in power, he kind of spread the shit out everywhere and really kind of took a hard line. So it was very secular at the time. When we took that out, it went super sectarian violence everywhere, and it just became a shit show. So
damn. So you were over there when all that was going on.
Oh yeah, and when Powell said you break it, you buy it, that's exactly right. So you got to be careful with that stuff when we go into this stupid shit sometimes.
So this was Iraq. You also have on here Afghanistan too.
Yep. Same type of work actually met my wife in Iraq. Yeah.
That's probably her again.
No, it's not her. That's Amazon delivery. They can deal with that. So I met her in Iraq, and then we were both. It was funny because there was a route from Camp Victory to the International Green Zone, and that was called Route Irish. And that was known to be the deadliest road in the world. I mean, snipers and everything. And me and her would drive back and forth to see each other and stuff on that road. So it was nuts.
So what was she doing? Was she also working?
She was working as a contractor. She's Turkish, and she was working for a Danish camp supply. So basically there's nothing there. So you got to bring your own shit. So she would have the living containers that would pop up, and set up and stuff. And so she was doing that. And then we both went to Afghanistan, and she was working for a Turkish company over there, and I was working for an American company over there. And so I stood up when we did the surge in Marja in Afghanistan. That all came from the base I built. So we did a design build, 1,200 man camp, 400 meters by 400 meters in 5 months. Right. So, you come back to Tampa and you go, I did that shit in 5 months. We're doing this in 2.
Right.
And then you get, boom, construction services hits you in the face. You go, this is going to be 2 years. So it's like, that was a shot. I thought I could do anything fast at that point in time. And then you come here and you go, I didn't have that bureaucracy over there. So it was nuts.
First of all, you started dating your wife, and you guys are commuting on this dangerous ass road.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell was that like? She must be a tough woman though to
amazing.
Go over there and deal with that kind of stuff.
Melis is absolutely amazing. I won the lottery with that woman, man.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the numbers, right? 17,000 Marines on the space, right? All of them are like stud muffins, right? They're all like good looking. Then you got another 5,000 contractors. If you saw Landman, it's a bunch of fat dudes and all this stuff and living in man camps. Out of all that, maybe 500 women, right? And out of the 500 women, maybe 50 are good looking. And, I scored one of the best looking women there. And I was like, I don't know what I did to land that, but
I'll drive down any damn road.
That was the lottery, right? And she is the coolest. She has been my business partner. She has been, when we first got here, we had no money. I had saved some money and stuff. And we bought like a 10-year-old Kia Sedona that she wanted a minivan, because she thought it'd be more practical. This woman's smart. And I was back in Afghanistan, and she was here. We had bought a house, and she was putting the vinyl plank down and managing the contractors and everything.
Damn,
it's amazing.
That's incredible. Amazing. That's awesome. You found a great one. Congrats.
Yes, I did.
How long you been together now?
17 years, man.
17 years.
We were laying in bed the other day. I was like, my God, we've been together 17 years.
It's a long way to go.
Yeah, I know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you finished with your contracting work.
Yeah.
Probably stacking up some dough along the way too.
Man, I wouldn't even buy a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like so, and I had gotten, I had, gone through divorce. My ex-wife wanted the house. And so the agreement was she had to refinance it. Well, of course she didn't. So it goes into foreclosure. Now I'm being foreclosed on. So my credit was gone. And I got to a point, I said, well, I can either be cash, save cash, because I got no credit. So I just started saving cash. And I just saved every nickel I could.
From those years of contracting work.
Absolutely. Just, everybody's going to Green Beans and buying a $3 espresso. I'm like, I took Folgers coffee that they would give for the classroom. I'd grind it so I could put it in my espresso machine. I was like, saved every penny.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So you get back to Tampa.
Yep.
You got some savings.
Yep.
What did you decide to do when you got back?
I was working at that foundation contractor. I started doing my little startup. Hold on, I'm going back. This is some first and second return. I had 2 returns to Tampa. Came back and started flipping houses.
So flipping houses
did a startup. I was doing a software startup, and to pay for the startup, I was flipping houses. It was a asset tracking and workforce management thing using QR codes that back in the day. Nobody realized how powerful it was, but I knew you could use them, right? So we were because I had worked in oil and gas. I went back. I was working in oil and gas in North Dakota and the Permian Basin and the Bakken in North Dakota, and I saw that there was a need to maintain all this equipment and have accountability. And when I was in Afghanistan, I noticed the first thing that the military does when we go into a place like that is set up a cell phone network. Why? And start handing out phones like candy, because now you track everybody.
Yeah.
And so, we had internet coverage everywhere in Afghanistan, right? With GPS and all that kind of shit. So I was like, man, if I can have that kind of coverage everywhere, I can create using QR codes. I can use globally unique identifiers, trigger the GPS, all that kind of stuff, and do that. So anyway, we started the software company. I reached out to Gil, hadn't talked to him in 20 years. Said, hey, this is what we're doing. He came up, we moved up here, and we were flipping houses and stuff. And then, I'm going through this. They wanted to open up the divorce case again and all this kind of stuff. And I was having to travel to Houston for all these oil and gas clients. And then finally I was like, okay, that's enough. And one of my other business partners said, hey, you should take a look at West River Flats. You should take a look at this Tampa Gardens apartments. So we ended up buying. This was when North Boulevard Homes was in its full glory. Okay, it was rough.
So we're talking
2014.
14.
Yeah.
Pull this up, David, because it's quite a jump from flipping houses to owning an apartment complex.
Yeah.
And how many units was the apartment
136
complex?
keys. 136 doors.
135
doors. Sorry.
But judging from your story about 220, I don't think you're shy to take on a project.
That's now the remodeled stuff. We put in the pool and all that, but
I don't know if they'll even have old photos on here.
Yeah.
Maybe go to the location on the map too.
So
this is in Old West Tampa on
Yeah.
Spruce.
Spruce and Rome. We bought it, $26,000 a door, right? North Boulevard Homes is on fire. This is all solid concrete block with concrete roofs, everything, just good bones, right? Again, when I look at real estate, look at good bones, right? McKinley bought all these like wood frame houses all here. I was like,
all these behind the studio here.
What do you do with that?
Right.
I mean, like everyone's different. They're all wood frame. They're non-conforming use. One of them burns down. You can't build it again. Right. So I was like, no. So I like good bones. So we buy this thing. So when you get kicked out of North Boulevard Homes, right? Public housing, you move there. Right. So you can imagine the cream that I had in that place. So I come back from, we close on the property on December 24, 2014. Okay. The first week I was there, I had a shooting. We had 2 fights. I mean, it was a mess. And I'm sitting here going to myself, I'm like, I was in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I think this is where I'm going to get killed.
Jesus Christ.
The first day we bought it, there was a warrant for the arrest of a guy on murder charges. And there was a SWAT team pulling him out. Day one.
Now, at that point, were you like, what the fuck?
I'm like, what the fuck did I just do?
Right.
Holy shit. And so, so we bought it. Okay.
What'd you pay a door?
26,000.
Times how many doors?
135.
3.5.
Yeah, it was like 3.6.
3.6.
Yeah.
But look at the size of the property.
4.5 acres.
4.5 acres.
1 mile away from UT.
But at the time,
it was on fire. That neighborhood was on fire. The storm drain would drain. It would like go into people's houses when it rained hard. I mean, the roofs were all
just a
up.
disaster.
A disaster.
Yeah.
They would stack furniture into the empty units just to not pay to throw it away.
Oh my God.
We had 40 vacant units. We had another 40 that didn't pay. It was a disaster. Drug activity. People, cops in there a couple times a day, right? Fast forward 5 years, I got Hanukkah decorations in the windows. Okay. I got the UT student government president living there. Okay. We're running
5 years later.
5 years later. We've remodeled all of them once, and we're kind of going back and doing. I got Airbnbs in there. Okay, I'm doing Airbnbs, and so we bought it at 3.6, and we sold it for 22.5 5 years later.
Holy shit!
Yeah. So you want to talk about a life changer? That's a fucking life changer right there.
But what a bet!
Yeah. Oh man, it was.
I mean, you got the SWAT team on day one.
So I went to UNC. One of the guys that really convinced me to go in UNC was a guy named Dave Hartzell, who was the head of the real estate department. So anyway, I reached back and I knew they had a fund, right? And I said, Dave, I got this deal. Maybe the fund can invest in it and you guys can see how we do it. And I think he looked at it and he goes, no, man. He didn't say that. He's like, no, I think we're going to pass on this one. I was like, I think he's going like,
how many vacancies do you have?
He's like, this thing is a slumlord. This is horrible. But we took that thing. We went in the first week, man. We went through, cut everything, cleaned everything up. The trees were all overgrown. Just cleaned it all out.
Now, how are you handling? Because you mentioned with the UT kid, you have a sort of captain's mask.
No. This is the UT was at the captain's mask was at 220.
No, I understand. But what I'm saying is these tenants.
Yeah.
Right. A little bit of a different.
Yeah.
Type of person.
Oh yeah.
So how do you deal with, hey, bro, you can't, sell drugs here anymore?
I think they still think I'm a cop.
The way you kind of ran that place.
They still do.
So you weren't shy to show up on this property.
Oh yeah, no. It was crazy. So it's and first thing I did was I reached out to one of my security guards that had been working there. He had a contact with Blasioli from City of Tampa Rock Squad, and we went with them. We worked with them. We made all the improvements that they wanted. They wanted, the walls cut down, so improved visibility. They wanted
probably more lighting.
Well, there was one light. I remember Gil and I went in through over here on Oregon. We went in after we bought it, and we had a contract on it, and we walked in, and this is a horseshoe, right? It's like it's 2 horseshoes, two inverted C's, right? And so we pulled in, and it's pitch black. There's one light working, and everybody's outside, kind of smoking weed and all this stuff. And we're like, let's go, let's get out of here. We're like, and man, it was scary. So we had the office over here on this building, and I remember it'd be like Friday nights, and it's just live. It's live. People are everywhere, it's like, and I'd be looking through the blinds. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. I remember I think it was like Mother's Day, and I'm at the beach, and somebody says, hey, man, take a look at your cameras. And they were having a block party. This had 2,000 people over here. So I immediately get back. I call TPD. We get all this stuff. Get all these people out of here and stuff. It was nuts, man.
Holy shit! So how do you turn it around in 5 years? The tenants that are not paying, doing drugs, all that sort of stuff, they get evicted. You're probably not renewing certain leases. But there's probably
absolutely
great people in there too that are kind of trapped.
We had one guy, Mr. Lee. He had been there since it was built.
I
told that guy,
shit.
As long as I own this, I will never raise your rent.
Wow.
I told him that. So when I sold it, he was paying $650, right?
Wow.
So, but I had a hit put on me. So I had one of my partners had a guy who worked for him, and he said, "Listen, man, word on is they're going to try and kill you." And I was like, "Shit." I'm like, okay. So you don't get these stories here all the time, do you? So they had put they were going to try and the word was that they were going to try and kill me. So I was like, all right, I got it, So I started not driving there. I would show up in an Uber, so they didn't know when I was there. And then I had a TPD guy follow me around for like a couple weeks, and so that kind of that thing went away because it was one of the drug dealers that was there that I kicked his ass out, and so that he didn't like that shit too much.
Now, is there any point in this where you think, you know what, I'm going to market this thing for sale. Let's get out of the deal.
No. But at that time we had already had control of it, so we were already At first, people were like, "Oh, this is great. This guy's cleaning stuff up." But then they realized, we ain't tolerating shit anymore. We used to have a guy
rules to follow now.
Oh yeah, we had a guy that would had a little fryer out in front of his house every day, and sell food and shit there every day. And then every day it was just styrofoam plates and crap and all over the place. It was a mess. So there was another lady that basically operated a bar out of there.
Wow.
Oh, it was
just
a
mixed
crazy,
bag. Yeah.
Crazy.
So the old owner basically had zero management, zero security.
They were fixing cracked toilets with caulking.
That's horrible for the people that live there. That's horrible.
There was one of the units that would have just like raw sewage just coming out of the front door. We had the lady
and you're the bad guy coming in, and so
there was a lady who lived next door to us who that had the room next to the office, and she had been in there for I don't know how many years, and she smoked in there, and so like the walls were just like shellac, just like
oozing
nicotine, everywhere. And so people are like, oh, you can use shellac to like lock it down so you don't smell. I said, no, man, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pressure wash this thing. And so we went in the apartment because it's all CMU block and we just pressure washed the interior of the apartment.
Pressure washed inside the apartment.
Inside. Pressure washed inside the apartment. You were just having like this yellow nicotine stream coming out.
Good Lord.
And that's where the UT student government president lived for 2 years before she went
in that specific
apartment, and then she ended up going up to Philadelphia, Carnegie Mellon, and she had graduated as an attorney from up there.
Wow, amazing! And right before you sold it, can we see some pictures? I mean, it sounds like you did everything. Cameras and lighting and landscaping.
The gates didn't work. We got the gates to work again. The access control.
You did a full blown.
We put in a pool. We put in a dog park. We put in, it was great. I mean, it was the laundry room didn't even work when we got it. Didn't even work.
So these people were.
We put in an Amazon hub. Oh, it was horrible.
That is horrible.
It was horrible. It was horrible. So
yeah, go to that top picture. Look how pretty that is. Is that what y'all?
That's
did?
What they're doing now. I think that one's already kind of. Let me see. Yeah, it's the next owner. So that was So this is. They're starting to do that stuff. They actually took it down because of the hurricane. But that's what they're looking like now inside.
Beautiful,
right?
amazing. Now, what made you sell it? Just because, hey, this thing's worth.
My wife had a stroke. 39 years old, had a stroke. And we were like, okay, we're, cash rich, real estate rich, cash poor. It's like, it's another stress point in life. And she says, you know what, we need to take some chips off the table and see that none of that was there. Go back a second. Go back. There was no washing machines that work. All of them were messed up. We put in an Amazon hub for package management.
The washing machines didn't work, so people were walking to the nearest
laundromat. There was a laundromat on Main.
Right. So that's where they were going.
They were having to go over there. I mean, it was a disaster.
Yeah.
We cleaned everything up, I mean, it was added barbecue grills. We did all kinds of, and just on top of it, you just have to be, don't tolerate crap, push, and we put in a pool. I mean, it was, I even built, I like to swim. So I even built a lane for it, like a separate lane.
Nice. Yeah.
So I could swim laps and stuff. I don't think I've ever swam a lap in there, but it's like, that was the idea anyway. So it was great.
I can't imagine the lessons taken from this to be able to accomplish the cigar factory, which let's talk about that now, and 220.
Yeah.
Like what a heavy lift this thing was to turn this place around.
Oh yeah.
And sell it 5 years later for 300-400%.
Both my parents were absolute workaholics. So I don't know any other way. I really don't. I don't really know any way. It's like, I just don't know how you do it.
And this stuff feeds you. I mean, you don't, like you said, when you sold this, you weren't looking, let's go buy a 2005 vintage apartment complex and park our money.
Yeah.
That was not what you were trying to do.
No.
You wanted another challenge.
That was kind of like my
project.
dad that said, what am I going to do with, storage? It's
right.
like, so you got to be challenged at it a little bit. But it was fantastic. This is the, so I don't know if you can do a Google timeline street view so you can see how kind of what it was.
I actually think you can. Yeah. If you pull up Google Maps on Street View,
2111 North Albany.
You can go back. Actually, not too far from this deal here.
Oh, it's a couple blocks away.
This whole area is super exciting.
So here's a funny story, right? So I went to Baycrest Elementary. In 6th grade, we got bused to Dunbar Elementary, right? Or Dunbar Middle School, 6th grade center, right? I didn't even know where it was, right? Had no idea. All I remember was 3 things. My Michelle Savine, which was the first female that got breasts, right? We called her Michelle So Fine. We had, I saw my first joint, and I saw a guy beating his wife out of the window. That's my main memories of Dunbar Elementary. I didn't even know where it was. I buy West River, I buy Tampa Gardens Apartments, and I go, that's where I went to school in 6th grade. And
that's crazy. And you hadn't seen it since
then. I hadn't seen it since then. I was like, oh my God. And so this is what we buy. So this is actually the roof's replaced. So we've kind of, I think we've already done some work there. But so it's this parking, or it's this big lot here. Maintenance has had it. They had that area there. Now, freeze there if you can. I'm not sure. There's an alley that runs through here that had been vacated. So we think it's already vacated, right? Cool. But no, there was a transportation easement and utility easement that still ran through there, right? Mm-hmm. So we had already planned on doing this clubhouse and all this stuff. And they're like, no, you can't close that alley because there's still a transportation alley. And then there was a guy on the other side that had built a garage with alley access. So he's like, dude, I'm not signing a vacation. I'm not going to vacate it. And so we're like, well, shit, what do we do? So we negotiated with the city so that the alley goes straight and then goes to the north, right in front of the cigar factory.
So it makes an L kind of.
It makes an L, and that let us close that part in the back.
Let's talk too, before we dig into this specific deal, how the deal came to be, because this is another ambitious project. You've done this apartment complex, you've done 220.
Yep.
Did this thing pop up for sale, or what the hell made you want to buy an old cigar factory?
You drive around, and again, you look at stuff that you look at opportunity, right? And like, okay, what do you do? So this is actually with it looking nice. We've tuck pointed at all this stuff in that point in time. When we bought it, it was the original windows in it, man. So it was rough.
David, go to the top right. I know you can kind of go back in time. Report a problem. No, there's a way to do it.
No.
Maybe on the bottom. Yeah, work on that, David, while we talk about how you how the.
So anyway, so we saw it. It was like, okay, it's like 30-something thousand square feet, and it's kind of cool. We love the neighborhood. We think that West Tampa, West River area is going to be fantastic. And so we said, well, we had just sold at that point in time. We just sold West River Flats, and where's that?
Well, that's already you guys cranking on the townhomes.
Oh, okay, yeah,
clubhouse,
yeah.
So this is, oh, there you go at the top, David. See the timeline?
Yeah.
So
go to 20 or 19 or 21. Any of this is fine. Yeah. Boom.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, if you can get more of a street level view, you can see what we're talking about. But anyway, yeah, man, we're back to the modern times again. But anyway, so we saw it and then decided that we wanted to kind of we knew student housing was still an issue for the university. We had, I think it was 2021, we had 150 people on our waiting list for 136 beds that we already had leases for. So it was 150 on top of what we already had rented out, and we had nobody cancel
at 220.
At 220. So we're like, okay, there's a need here. So we started that process up, and it turned out to be a pretty nice project.
And because you had already done the apartment complex, right, for student housing, you knew the kids were willing to kind of go up in that direction.
Right.
Because it's not that far from the school.
Listen, I think you were talking about it. You were talking about before we came on a couple shows ago. You're like, hey, man, you're getting the experience, right? The historical cigar factory with the real brick walls. I mean, 120-year-old, you're living in history, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not just your generic brand new student housing. This is an experience, right? And so, you got people that, used to roll cigars in this damn thing, right? So it's pretty cool.
How old's the building?
123 years old.
Wow.
123 years old.
So you guys pick this up, and immediately while you're underwriting it and kind of getting the due diligence together, your thought was student housing, right?
Yes. And so what we did was we knew it was going to be a process to get the buildings approved and everything. So I said, I can pull a roof permit right now. So let's weather tight the building like first, because it was like leaking. We had leaks in the roof and all this stuff. I said, this is first thing we're going to do is we're going to like, weather tight it. So I
preserve it, so to speak.
So I knew I could pull a roofing permit. I could put a window replacement, and I could do brick pointing and tuck. So while we're getting all this stuff together, which this is I could talk forever on this stuff, but anyway, so we got all that done. That addition that's there was something built on. That used to be where the bathrooms were at. This building was actually bought by a group of architecture students from USF. When they were looking around for, I know it's crazy. They were looking around for places to build stuff for the Olympics, right? And they came across it. Two of the original owners lived down the street.
Look at what a piece of shit this thing was.
Yeah.
Was this when you bought it? This is what it looked like?
Yep, like that. Just like that.
Holy.
Yep.
Oof.
Just like that. It was a train wreck.
Wow.
Yep.
As all of these properties you've
Yes.
kind of creatively, this is your...
That's the satisfaction you get from this. You take something that is abandoned, and this was like my dad's antique refinishing. You take something that's just, a disaster, but has good bones. I mean, we got 12-foot high ceilings in some of these things, right? Inside, it's beautiful, right? And we turned it into, a fantastic.
Look at that!
Yeah.
Wow!
Look at
that
clean,
before and after right there.
tuck pointing. We put in the new canopy in the front and all that stuff.
And now you're a kid from Connecticut, somewhere in the Northeast. You come to Cigar City to go to school.
Yep.
And you get to live in a cigar factory.
Yep.
How freaking cool is that?
It's fantastic.
What do the kids say now that they're moved in?
Oh, they love it. Honestly, we were a little concerned at first because, it was kind of rough when we first got there. And, man, we got 100% leased up. It was amazing. And, we had a little bit of rough time because we were rushing to try and get it completed on time. So, some of the floors weren't like, the vinyl plank was lifting up in some areas, and we had, because we hadn't gotten all the humidity out and everything. So we had different little issues. Now it's flawless, man.
Solid.
It's beautiful. When they took the break and then we had the 2 storms and all that. So, as soon as we took the break for Christmas, I mean, we were just like, boom, inside doing all the little punch list stuff because we didn't bother. I mean, you already have 2 storms. You've evacuated twice because a lot of people evacuated irregardless if they had to or not. We were a week late in turning the building over. I mean, the last thing we wanted to do was go in there and disturb them anymore. Right. So they go on Christmas break and all of a sudden we just swoop in and just clear out all the punch list items.
Wow.
So yeah. So,
now, has anyone in the city of Tampa's history turned a cigar building into student housing?
Daryl Shaw,
Olivia,
the Oliva Cigar Factory in Ybor City.
Okay.
Wood frame. I would have never done that. I think that's probably worse than me. But yeah. But that was a wood frame building that he converted to housing.
And what is this thing zoned, and how does the city kind of
It was zoned industrial.
It was zoned industrial.
Now it's residential.
So
now it's a PD, right?
Right. But when you go to the city and you start talking about this with staff and this is what we want to do, what's the reaction?
They which staff?
The city, I guess, in the
historical,
building.
They loved it. They were like, yes, Dennis and Ron Vila and those guys. They were like, yeah, absolutely.
And their perspective.
I mean, there's only like 24 of these things left, right? So they want to.
So any attempt by a private developer to ensure that this will be here another 100 years is, in their eyes, a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody thought it was a good thing. I mean, the neighborhood thought it was a good thing.
But you said which one?
Construction services. Yeah.
Well, without going into details or naming names, talk to me about kind of the process.
So let me tell you, we wanted to not have what happened to us at 220. 220, we were 3 weeks late. Classes started. I'm not done yet, right? I'm not done yet. I had to put 136 kids in hotels, right? $25,000 a day. Thank God that Punit Shaw's home to suites in downtown was delayed, and he had all these reservations, so he had to cancel a lot of the reservations and stuff. So he had availability. Now we were going to put him in the Floridan because we had negotiated like $85 a night, right? But the Floridan, wasn't spectacular, I mean, compared at that time, right? And compared to a brand new hotel with pool and all that stuff. And so he came at me like $135 a night. I'm like, bro, I can't. I don't know how long we're going to have these people in there. So I was like, yeah, we'll do the 85 at the Floridan. And then he says, we'll do it. We'll do it for the 85. So we put all the kids over there. Then there's a hurricane on the other side of the state, and everybody's coming over here to get hotel rooms. And he's like, hey, dude, I got to get these people out, because I can make a whole lot more money. And I was like, dude, you're going to have to evict me, man, because I ain't going nowhere. I'm sorry. What am I going to do? I'm not going to move these kids. So anyway, we get it done. We move all the kids, and we tell them we're going to move them on a Saturday, and thinking, it'll be fine, So we set up the college hunks there. So we gave the kids boxes to put all their stuff in at the hotel, and so we're thinking, it'll be the kids. 7 o'clock in the morning, the whole lobby's full of boxes. Everybody's ready to go.
Diligent young individuals at the
they're ready to move into their
Tampa.
place. We moved in, so we got our TCO, our temporary certificate of occupancy, on Friday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we moved in 100 of 136 on Saturday.
Oh my God! Now, is this your legal obligation, or talk to me about when these kids sign these leases? You're required to deliver something. If you don't have to deliver it, is it your job to
these
pay?
things have out clauses, but I mean, what does it do to me if I, do I have a legal obligation? Not really, but
it's the right thing to do.
Exactly. It talks about like our community thing, right? So do I have to do all this stuff? No, but is it the right thing to do? Yeah. And you know what? It's great. It turned out to be fantastic. We had a fire, with the Saskatchewan house next door,
right.
Kids were fine. We had 16 units flood because, new construction, there's always some dumbass plumber that forgets to glue a joint. That happened. So, I mean, and all in all, the kids loved it.
And that's what's important.
That's correct.
5-star reviews.
That's correct.
So a part of this project too, David, if you could find that aerial view, and we can wrap it up here soon. We've been rolling for a couple hours, I think. I need to get you out of here.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you being here, by the way.
Sure.
And all this insight's been awesome.
Sure.
So you guys additionally put like townhomes on the what would that be? The west and the south side
On the
and
south, on the
a
south,
clubhouse.
on the south and the west side. Correct. And a clubhouse and a pool. Yep, that's right.
Now, why? Now,
Lloyd Sowers, by the way, did a great little write-up or little video on Fox 13. That was awesome. He's good. He did a piece when we first bought it, and he did a piece after we bought it, and he was just a super, super nice guy, man. He does great stuff.
Now, when you bought the property, it included kind of the parking lot and this whole land here.
It did.
Why townhomes? I mean, could you have gone like
density,
retail on the bottom and some?
Nah, you're not gonna get retail there. It's density. I mean, we're getting 4-bedroom units there and stuff. So it was it's a student housing property, so you gotta have density, right? So that's what we did. Yeah. So and I actually own that house right there too. So the house
that's where we met. That's your construction office.
That was my construction office, and now it's a 4-bedroom, 4-bath house. It's run the students, right?
Little student housing rental, and you got the big parking lot too.
Yep.
Now the townhomes.
Yep.
That's student housing.
Fantastic. Yeah. Student housing.
That's what the hell kind of a college kid gets to live in a brand new town?
Amazing. Those walnut townhouses are completely badass. I mean, I thought the Albany ones would be cool because they have a rooftop deck.
Yeah.
But the second floor is the living area, and it's just a
massive
big living area with the kitchen.
Hangout.
Exactly. You got a half bath there. You got all the stuff. I actually like those much better than the Albany ones, because the Albany ones, the living area is on the first floor. It's kind of detached from the main house. It's and it's 3 floors up, so you got to go up and down a lot. These came out great. I'm gonna build about 20 more of these. Not there.
That's the floor
else.
plan those kids want. When I was in college, we lived in a 2-story home, 6 of us guys on the top, 6 girls on the bottom. The way the floor plan was set up on each floor was a huge living space, double living room, huge kitchen in the middle.
Yep.
3 bedrooms on one side, 3 on the other. So it was like literally a huge living space, like the size, way bigger than the size of the studio, with bedroom. And it was just a freaking congregation of fun in the middll. That's the way those kids want to live.
It's fantastic.
I'm sure
I love it.
And right out the back, they got a pool.
You got the pool.
Barbecue.
Gym.
Yep.
It's
awesome
fantastic.
project. And you still own this one.
Yes, we do.
Don't plan to sell it. Maybe you do. We'll see.
It's on the market.
Is it?
Yeah.
What are you asking anything for it? You have a number?
Of course we're asking something for it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so we actually have 220 and a cigar love song. Look, my partner, he wants to retire.
Sure.
He wants to move to Portugal. He's had a rough couple days. His brother actually passed away yesterday, or actually this morning, diagnosed with lung cancer 2 weeks ago. And, 2 weeks later, he's dead, right? It's nothing with nothing. I mean, it's like, so horrible. He's like, he was already like, I want to, and now he's like, man, I'm done. He wants to relax. And, because listen, man, I tell my wife every day, you never know, bad shit will happen to you at some point in time. Guaranteed, right? You just don't know when.
The question is when.
So the issue is that you got to live every day like you don't, like it's your last, right? So, or the good times, because, I could get sick, my wife could get sick, something can happen to my kids, anything like that can happen, right? So you never know. So you got to live life every day. So I like what I do. I'm not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
My plan is to continue to manage these because I think we do a damn good job. I've got my Interbay Commons project, which is a 30 townhome project and 15,000 square feet of commercial. And then I've got about 20 to 25, about 25 different townhouses / single family houses that I'm going to just start popping out of the ground. And that'll keep me busy. Good thing with that is I delay 6 months. Who gives a shit, right? I mean, it's not like this that if I'm late a week, you're
way less complicated.
Not historically not an adaptive reuse, brand new. So it's a more lifestyle thing, and I still do what I love, which I love building stuff.
But you also sound opportunistic, and if something maybe similar to any of these deals pop up, you're interested.
Not the big stuff. I'm gonna keep, who knows? I mean, it's like my wife was asking me to retire, and then like about 2 seconds after she said that, she's like, yeah, that's not going to work. So
then you show her another, hey, look at this other cigar factory.
Yeah. No, I was actually reaching out to maybe like, I was going to buy a plumbing business, because I think that's going to be interesting. Private equity is buying a bunch of that.
Those guys are getting rich. Those old family businesses, 30 years in the business. They got 15 trucks out there.
30? Yeah. Less than that, man. There's some stuff out there at 5 years, and they're getting, 2-digit, 6, 7, 8 digit, offers. There was a Wall Street Journal.
HVAC guys, all those companies.
I tell young people today, man, if you don't want to go to college, or if you're going to go to college for something that's not like engineering or something like, tangible like that, man, if you're a man, HVAC, is you make $100,000.
Oh yeah.
Between your day job and your little side hustle stuff, you make $100,000.
Yeah.
There ain't a whole lot of guys who do that. You can do that at 18, 19 years old.
Each of those units now cost $6-8 grand. I mean, it's
They don't. It's when the markup and all that stuff, right?
Well, hence the reason why they're making $100,000 a year.
Right, exactly right. You have to be super careful with AC guys and plumbers, especially AC guys. The way they're compensated now, that private equity owns them, they say, "Hey, man, we're going to pay you $20 an hour, and by the way, we'll give you 20% on everything you sell." Right? So you might have a blown capacitor, but all of a sudden they're telling you, "Oh, your compressor's bad," and by the way, it's out of warranty. It's going to cost you $2,500 to fix, or we can get you a new one for $7,000. You don't have to ever worry about it for the next 5 years. And by the way, we'll finance it.
No brainer.
The private equity guys aren't telling you to lie, right? But how are you incentivizing this? So you have to be super careful. And on all this stuff, I mean, and they're gobbling up the earth, right? Like Sefner Gravel and Rock, a one-site company. It's like now, all the construction materials, all that stuff. That's why this stuff's going up. It's not because it's costing that much more to make. It's just because they're cornering the market on a lot of this stuff, right?
And then you've got investors that need to make a profit on these companies, so they have to raise the prices, insurance,
I'll tell you, it's going to be and the good news is they usually mismanage these things eventually, so there's opportunity, but I mean, there's a lot of stupid money that's happened with private equity. So
there really is all across the board. Omar, thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Again,
appreciate it.
Thanks for being
Keep
here.
up the good work, man. It's I don't know how you have to be the most informed person in the Tampa Bay area on real estate, man. It's like
we've had a hell of a lot of conversations. What are we on, David? This is like 110 something, 115. 112.
I was hoping it'd be like something like 220 or something like that.
Yeah, 220 exactly. Well, we need to get you back on because I want to talk about density, your development philosophy, which we kind of touched on, but we'll get you back on.
Sure.
Thank you.
Maybe
again,
you could put together a bunch of little segments instead of like one big guy at one time.
I don't mind that at all. We'll talk.
Later.
Omar,
thank you again. Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody. Hey, guys, if you want to watch episodes just like this one, make sure to click right here to view the rest of our full episodes. And also make sure to subscribe by clicking right here. Thank you for watching.